All right, let's see. Okay, sending data, sending data. Okay, sending to LinkedIn, sending to Facebook, sending to YouTube. And now looks like we're headed over to Instagram as well.
We're all over the
All
place.
right. Yeah, I got to love this thing. It goes everywhere at all times. So let's rock. Let's roll. Let's go. All right. Well, welcome back to the Who You Know show, where what you know is important, but who you know can make all the difference in your wealth, health, business, your career, your relationships, and definitely in your life. And I'm super excited today. We got an amazing guest. But before we get to that, let me ask you something straight out of the gate. If your job disappeared tomorrow, would your confidence disappear with it? Because a lot of people think they're safe until, you know what I'm saying, they're just not, right? And by the time they start thinking about their options, they're already in reaction mode. So today's conversation is for people who don't want to wait for a layoff to get serious about ownership. My guest today, Giuseppe Grammatico. He's a franchise veteran, coach, author, and someone who's helped over 200 people, including a lot of military veterans, go from uncertainty to confident business ownership. And before you tune out thinking, is this some kind of get rich quick scheme or, buy a business and disappear conversation, let me be clear. This is about leverage. This is about preparation. This is about building a safety net before you need one. So we're going to talk about all the uncomfortable side of franchising, the myths, the mistakes, and why ownership might not be about freedom the way that Instagram sells it, but why it still might be the one of the smartest moves that you're going to make in today's economy. So, Giuseppe, welcome to the Who You Know show.
Love it, Trevor. I appreciate it, man. That was awesome. That's one of the best intros I've ever had. So I've been doing this for a while. So thank you. It's an honor. And
Gotta love AI, right?
yes, put it all. Pretty soon it's just going to replace us, right? I don't even know if I'm talking to live Trevor or AI Trevor. So
that's true. Pretty soon you won't know. I'm working on a few things, but hey, listen, let's get into it. All right. Before we really get into franchising, I want to start here. What usually brings people to you, right? Is it inspiration, like they're feeling inspired about starting a new venture, or is it desperation? Like what usually brings people to your front door?
A lot of it's pain. It's just pain meaning I hate my job. I hate my commute. I'm never home. I'm traveling all the time, and there needs to be a better way. What else is out there? What else can I do to create, this ideal life that I want to put together? So you get a lot of people that want to know a little bit more about owning a business, but the people that truly move forward, the people that are successful, there's that pain. They're trying to get rid of that pain, that nagging boss, those 20-hour days or those 5-hour commutes. And they contact me looking and say, hey, is there, am I business ownership material? What does that look like? And talk me through what a business could do for my life. So
I got you. So it's just kind of like, enough is enough is enough. Like I remember when I was in the automotive industry, hitting the glass ceiling over and over and over, dealing with corporate politics. There were just a few things like that just, made me say enough is enough. And like, I just had to get out. And so it's kind of like that for you too. What you're seeing is people are going through some type of pain and they're just like, look, can you help me?
Is there any other options? What does that look like? And yeah, I experienced it. I tell my story. I had that ceiling as well. I worked on Wall Street for many years. It's funny. I did really well my first year and made less and less every year afterwards while bringing in more revenue, right? Completely opposite. Doesn't usually work that way. And I just got fed up. I got passed up for promotions. I had a 5-hour door-to-door commute. But and with all that being said, that's enough to make anyone crazy and want to look elsewhere. But for me, it was my personal situation. We grew up where mom stayed at home to take care of the 3 boys. Dad owned the restaurant, and we never saw our father unless we were at the restaurant. So that was something where for my kids, I wanted to make sure we were as present as possible. And I started my journey in '05, research '07 was my first franchise, and said, you know what, I have basically an entire year before my son, my first, was born, to get my business up and running so that I can become the soccer coach that I am today, coaching the kids and never missing the event. So that
Mm,
pain, there was a lot of present pain, and then there was the future pain of avoiding, if I left at 5 a.m. and got home at 10, you're not going to see your newborn because they're going to be sleeping. So I needed to make that
mm.
change before the kids were born.
Yeah, so that gave you a little bit more freedom too. So,
Absolutely.
um, okay, so what do you think right now, though, is one of the hardest mindset shifts that you see when someone moves from being an employee,
Right.
right, to like shifting into thinking like a business owner? What's the hardest mindset shift that needs to happen?
Yeah. So couple things. Number one is a lot of people are like, well, what kind of money can I earn? And they're asking more of those kind of investment related, kind of like in the stock market. Stock market, S&P historically delivers between 8 and 10%. They're looking for those real hard numbers. And in reality, business ownership, there's so many variables. Some people get into franchising and fails. They bought the wrong franchise. They didn't follow the system. The franchisor maybe didn't produce and follow through with their promises. So there's so many variables there. So the mindset is not, it's not about what's the return I can make my first year. It's really what kind of life, what does life look like in the next, not
Mm,
just 1 year, but the next 5 or 10 years. What am I looking to accomplish? Is it time freedom? Well, that can definitely be done with a business. You control the time. Just I set the expectation to say I've owned multiple businesses. It's not something that's earned right away. It takes some time. You need to find the right people and the right franchise and go to training and get that first year under your belt. Time freedom isn't, you sign a franchise agreement and now you're at the pool working an hour a week. So
mm.
that's not what a franchise is. Eventually, you can get to that point if you build the team and find the right franchise. Um, the other misconception or mindset shift is a business is riskier than a job, and I challenge people to that. And the
Mm.
challenge is this: there's nothing wrong with being employed. There's nothing wrong with owning a business. It's there's different paths for different people. My job is really to kind of empower you so that you're kind of evening the playing field when you're looking at both options. A job is also risky. Again, not against it, but at the end of the day, you have one employer. Many people I work with, they have one income stream. It's their W-2
Mm.
salary. You don't have any control of the direction of that business, the profitability. You're working with your clients, just say, or whoever they assign to you, but ultimately you could be downsized at any point in time.
Oh yeah.
You're. I know for me, my promotions were based off the 30 managers that were above me in the hierarchy, which is crazy, right?
Hmm.
Any suggestion had to go up the ladder
Oh,
and usually kind of just disappeared.
corporate. Yeah.
It was tough. But not only that, what I did was I had that job, I had that one income stream, which was a good income stream, and now I blindly invested in a 401k in the stock market. Again, not against the stock market. I invest in the stock market, but I had no control in the mutual funds I was investing, the 5 or 6 mutual funds. So I really had no control. I was making as much as I could, try to hold on to it, right? Taxes obviously eroded quite a bit, and then invested what I could in retirement. I really had no control in the stock market. I didn't control the companies in the S&P. I didn't control my job aside from my attitude and what I put in. I didn't control the direction of the business. I didn't know if a merger was going to happen until after the fact. I've been downsized before. So I think when people look at businesses, they think it's the riskiest thing. And I challenge you to think differently, and approach it maybe a little bit differently. A franchise is a business on training wheels. There's definitely risk there, but
Yeah.
ultimately, you want to find the right match, not just buy any franchise because you saw it on the
Yeah.
top list.
Well, what I'm hearing you say, because I trust me when I tell you this, Giuseppe, like my audience can definitely relate to what you're talking about. They're, getting let go from these companies left and right.
Right.
I mean, they work their way up a corporate ladder, and as their title gets bigger and their salary gets larger, they get to a point where these companies, a lot of these stock-owned companies are making, financial decisions about the company when they're in hard times, and they restructure,
Right.
right? And then next thing you know, you're having layoffs, and they're cutting people and all this kind of stuff. And so the average tenure on a job is usually 3 to 4 years. So yeah, you may have some safety for 3 to 4 years, but then you're back in the job search, and depending on how long that can take you without any income, all of a sudden now you're completely out of income. So how does that impact your long-term,
Right.
financial health and all those kinds of things? So what I'm hearing you say is that ownership gives you control,
Mhm.
right? And yeah, it still may be risky, right? There's still going to be risk involved, but
Yes.
at least you own the risk.
Mhm.
Like, would you give it to a corporate company? Like they're in control of your risk.
100%. When I started my first business, yeah, the franchisor was doing marketing, but the marketing took a little while to kick in. So I cold called. I went business to business. I did whatever it took to make it happen. I didn't have any other options to fall back on. I didn't want to go back to the corporate grind. So,
Mm.
your attitude, your effort, you got to, your first year as a builder year, you got to bust your butt, franchise or not. You got to work your butt off to get the business up and running. This isn't a you buy it and you sit on the beach for an hour a week. It's something that's takes a lot of dedication, but you'll see the fruits of that, for many years to come. If you set it up, you get the right systems and the right people. We talk about the who so it's not just your direct staff, but your accountant, your attorney, your financial advisor, and everyone else in between. So once you get the teams in place, which doesn't happen overnight, it does give you the ability to start backing off and working on the business versus in the business.
What do people underestimate about responsibility when they say they want freedom? Because I know that's a thing that a lot of people, I'm sure, they maybe feel like they're handcuffed where they are and they're coming to you for freedom. But what do you think they underestimate about responsibility when they say that?
Yeah. So freedom is, there's 5 freedoms that Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach talks about. There's financial freedom, time freedom, location freedom, freedom of purpose, and freedom of people you enjoy working with and who you do business with. So the misconception is the freedoms come right away. And yes, who you work with, maybe you're a little bit, you could be selective if you can afford it, but the time and financial freedom take a little bit of time. But they just assume, I know in franchising that you buy the system, it's kind of the system is run and the franchise is run for you, and that's absolutely not the case. The guide is there and the process is there, but you still need to follow through with the marketing and review the KPIs. Sometimes each market may be a little bit different than another, but it's not one of those set. It's not a passive income type of business like you see with I invest in real estate syndication. That's passive. I get an update every month. Takes me all of 5 minutes. So, you know, definitely some more research upfront. So I think it's just this idea that you're kind of set it and forget it. You buy it and it's
Right.
running on its own, and that's just not the case. It's a business just like anything else, except you have that unfair advantage. You have that system in place that you can run with day one.
Do you like consult with them to figure out what their gift is and how they would like, yeah, they may own the business, but maybe they're better suited for marketing. Maybe they're better suited to be in the day-to-day operations, or like, do you figure out what their strengths are? And then, because they got to work in it, is what I'm hearing. Like, this isn't a machine that you buy and it just prints out money. Like, you got to work in it. And so, do you figure out what role they would play in that?
Yep, we look. That's one of the most important things we do. Is it's all about the fit. So with the
Mm,
role, some people just don't have the. I'll touch on this. They just don't have the ability to leave their job at this point in time. Maybe they're the sole income earner in the household,
mm.
and there are franchises that allow you to run the business part time. Keeping in mind, you do need a general manager, or a key employee in place. Your investment's going to be a little bit greater, followed by the franchise company has to allow that. But going back to your original question, it's all about the fit. So we're going to look at hard skills and soft skills. It's usually soft skills, transferable skills that apply. Hard skills are like I'm an attorney. That's great. I'm a marketer. That's great. But how does that going to transfer into the specific roofing franchise? So the soft skills are sales. It's things that will transfer into any business, no matter what business that is. But we're also looking at each franchise, regardless of the widget, the service, the product that's being offered. They have this what they call a franchise avatar. So I'll give you an example. There's a franchise we work with that works with helping small businesses in your market reduce their expenses. It's a free consultation, and they're compensated by basically a fraction of, or a percentage, excuse me, of the savings that they're able to save that small business owner. So people think right away, well, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a bookkeeper, and that's not what the role is. The role is really to network, to work with small businesses, and depending on the franchise, they'll show you how to do the analysis of the expenses. Once again, not accounting, or they will provide that service offering for you, again, depending on the brand. But in that specific business, same thing with business coaching, same thing with executive recruitment. Your roles are very similar. It's really networking with the small businesses. The Chamber of Commerce is a big one. So they have that avatar. So the point in that example is that if you come to them and say, I love that business, I would do great, and there's a ton of demand, but you're afraid of your own shadow, you don't like networking, you prefer to stay home and email, that business isn't going to work for you, because initially you're going to be spearheading that business and then bringing on a team that's going to work underneath you. You won't get to that level because you do have to go out and about and network and sell. So that's the soft skill. That's the transferable skill sets. Now, if you flip the roles, I'm introverted. I don't like sales, but I really enjoy managing. Then there are other businesses that have a larger labor force, where maybe you have someone handling the sales and you're dealing with the recruitment, working with the staff, and maintaining retention. And that's the avatar of that specific franchise. So every franchise, when you speak with them, if you're contacting directly, you ask them, who is your ideal fit? And they need to be crystal clear. If not, I would say probably you want to look elsewhere.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you've got to make sure that it fits. Okay, let's clear the air a little bit though, because when is franchising like a completely just not a good idea? Like, you got to tell people, yo, like, you need to go back to corporate America and get you that 9 to 5. Like, when's it a bad idea?
Yeah, it's well, sometimes it's a good idea, but the timing isn't right. So I'll answer it a few ways. So we work with people that, they're perfect fits, they're ready to go, they're able to follow a system, they don't have much capital to invest, and you need that capital, especially if you're running it full time. You
What's
need
a
to.
minimum, like, just to even really talk minimum capital to get started?
Yeah, I would say, I recommend 50 to 100,000 liquid, at least 150,000 net worth. You need some money. You have skin in the game. You can get loans,
Yeah.
absolutely, and put a down payment 20-30% on a SBA loan, but you definitely need some type of money to put down. The franchise fees will run 10 to 100,000, depending on what franchise that is. So you got to cover that fee and then all the other costs that go along with it. So
Imagine,
yeah.
I just had a thought. It was about college, right? And how much money people spend on college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, imagine, okay, and we're giving out loans for that, like it's candy. Okay,
Yes.
just giving out, hey, right? And you have no idea if those people are going to be successful or not, and a lot of times they're not. So imagine if they gave out some loans like that instead of college. They go start up a franchise. That might be interesting.
That would
Interesting
be
concept.
very, very interesting. I think that's something that I would love to see, because it's true. It's not, college is not the right path for everyone. Business ownership, yeah, it would be a lot easier if people can get certain loans, and depending on what route, banks are not necessarily loaning for a brand new business. You may have to go the SBA route. You need to show a little bit of a track record. So yeah, there's so many different funding options, and that's something we tackle ahead
But
of time.
with a franchise, you have a track record, right? You'd be, that's something that's to get a loan. Would you be able to get a loan like that? Oh boy, you
Uh,
can't.
yeah, I
You're
hear
good. Keep
I hear you good.
going.
So can you? There we go. Yeah. So Yes and no. So the a lot of the brands will have a track record. You don't have the track record. You as the
Mm,
franchisee. So there are companies like Bennett Trends who we work with, where they'll work with the SBA and find lenders and really say, hey, we have a proven business model, new franchise. So they'll look at some things such as, hey, are you keeping your job? Do you have an income stream coming in? They're going to look at credit scores, and you have to put together a business plan which ties in with the franchise agreement. So it's not a slam dunk in any ways, and there's dozens and dozens of different ways of funding it, but it does help with a franchise that you have a successful system. You have 50 franchisees. You have a franchise agreement with audited financials. It absolutely helps in getting that loan.
okay. All right. So let's do some myth busting. Okay. I want to talk about some myths. A lot of people think, that franchising is kind of like buying a job, right? When does that become true, and when is that completely false?
Yeah, so certain brands, it's almost depending how you're running the business. So if you are running a business coaching franchise and you're doing all the work and you don't hire any staff, in a way, you're almost buying a job because you're not growing the business, you're not bringing on staff, and backing away from the business. So a franchise, I do not believe you are buying a job. It is a business on training wheels. You don't necessarily need a partner, right? The franchisor is your partner, and they're doing everything they can for you to launch as soon as possible and successively. Excuse me. They're making money as you make money via their royalty. So, it's in their
Mm,
best interest for you to do well. A lot of franchisees will come back and purchase additional territories, additional locations, refer friends and family. They love that. They want great franchise owners that follow the system. You asked about who makes a good franchisee, and you have to be able to follow a system. If you're going to
mm,
buy a burger franchise and with the intention of changing the menu, you are not a good fit for a franchise. Uh,
mm,
why would you go in trying to change the menu when the system is already proven and working? You can always bring up ideas down the road, but really following that system, utilizing the coach, you're paying for this. You're paying a franchise fee and a royalty. So you
mm.
absolutely are not buying a job. This is a business. How you follow through is on you on the business, but your goal is eventually to kind of back off the business and really work on the big picture stuff.
So if I'm hearing you right, your incentive is to make sure that they're successful, because the more successful they are, the more successful you are. Is that right?
As the franchisor, yes, the franchisor makes their money via the annuity, which is your royalty payment. Up front, you
Okay.
pay a franchise fee. It's only one time. A lot of that gets reinvested back into the system, into the franchisee. So they're making their money. There's this relationship, right? The more you make, the more they make. So they want you to be successful. The
Yeah,
worst
that's
thing they
good.
can have is someone closing. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good thing. Some people might look at that as a bad thing, but no, that's a good thing,
it's a great
because
thing.
they're
Yeah.
invested. They're invested in you,
Yep.
right? So when you need support, well, speaking of support, like how much support is there when the franchisee needs some help? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so that is part of the when you're doing your research, your due diligence. These are questions to ask because every franchise is going to be different.
Mm,
You're going to get a lot of that feedback when you're validating and speaking with existing franchisees before making your final decision to say, hey, a lot of times the support is great to get the franchise launched, but how is the support going into it a year, 2, 5 years later? So it's good to talk with those veteran franchisees to get their feedback. Typically, they'll do whatever it takes to get you up and running and trained. And usually, a great franchise, and not all franchises, even in the same industry, are created the same. I'll repeat that. Not all franchises are created the same. And you need to ask these questions and get very laser specific on the support you're going to be getting, is saying,
mm,
okay, if the royalty is 5%, what am I getting for that? Do I
mm,
get access to a coach? Will that coach, we have franchisors where the coach, sometimes the founder will actually come into your territory and go on some sales calls with you, help you hire, your first vendor, your first employee, whatever's needed, maybe in a 2 week period. So every franchise is going to follow through differently. A lot of it's going to be virtual. Then there's going to be in person. So you want to know who is number one, my main point of contact. Am I assigned a coach? What a lot of franchise companies are doing is that they're linking in other franchisees, kind of like a group text or a group, like a portal that they've created where, if you're in the roofing business, technicians can all message each other and give each other like, hey, I don't know how to fix this one particular section of roofing, or this isn't working. And you'll have a bunch of technicians, franchisees, and the
Mm,
franchisor giving help, especially if it's after hours and things like that. And the AI is constantly, absorbing all of that and creating kind of these best practices and videos so that if someone's stuck on a roof and it's 6, 7 o'clock at night, a video would be sent to them automatically. So you really need to dig deep into the support, the marketing. What services do you provide? If it's a traditional home service business like roofing, do you offer a turnkey marketing solution? What about a call center? And you would ask those questions.
mm,
You'll see less and less of that in the B2B space, like business coaching. It's going to be more on the networking side. That's why you need that franchisee that's more of a hunter, that's more of an extrovert, that's
mm.
going to be going out. But you want to learn, it's not about what's better or worse, but what's the best fit based
Fit.
off the type of business you want to run.
Well, I was gonna ask because typically, like, well, for me at least, when I think about franchise, I think of like, you know,
Fast food.
McDonald's.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly,
me too.
exactly. I think of like, McDonald's
Yeah.
or, Chick-fil-A or something like that, right? Um, I know there's all kinds of different types of franchises out there. Um, what are some that are really popular right now? Um, some that are just really taking off. You're starting to see like some, you know, very, very profitable. And then as a follow-up question, just knowing what you know about me, if I were to start a franchise, I know you
Mhm.
don't have all the
Yeah.
specifics, but what kind of franchise do you think I would be a good fit for?
That's a good question. That's the first. I've been doing a lot of interviews and no one's asked that. So I'll answer that secondly. So what do we see out there? It's 4,000 franchises in the U.S. There's food, but the big one that's been growing quite a bit since COVID is home services. Something where you can
Mm,
be up and running in two or 3 months, and you can run it from home. So it's anything around the home. So it's handyman service, roofing,
mm,
cleaning, anything where you essentially are either having a couple staff members, a salesperson, and your marketing and call center are all handled for you. One of my key criteria 2 decades ago, and it has not changed a bit in looking for a business, is recession resistance.
mm.
Luckily, I've been doing this for a while, and COVID was right around the corner. So we got a little bit of a stress test in industries and businesses that did well. COVID shut a lot of things down, especially if you were in retail. So things that we're seeing doing well, which always have demand, is senior care. There are franchises out there that do medical, non-medical, and a combination of both, where they're going to the home, taking care of mom and dad, either for
Mm.
companionship or post-surgery, dementia care, Medicare, Medicaid. They're doing any type of service working with mom and dad or your
Yeah, I
grandparents
could see
directly at the
that
home.
one for sure. People are living
Yep.
longer and their bodies are breaking. You know what I mean? They're not dying.
And they want to stay home, right? They don't want to be in a
Right.
facility. And
Oh
you go to a
yeah. Who wants to
facility,
be in a
it's
who wants to
tough.
go to a facility? Come on.
And
Nobody
that's
wants to
actually,
go in.
and believe it or not, that's where a lot of people they're finding those families, is that they're in the facility to
Mm.
find out it's not working out. So they want to spend their last years comfortably at home. So those
Did you ever
businesses
watch
done.
Happy Gilmore?
Yes.
You remember
Yeah.
that? Do you remember when they put his grandma in the home
Yep.
and Ben Stiller?
The crazy, yeah, and he was back. I just saw Gilmore too,
Yeah, he
with
was
the
in the new
kids.
one. But yeah, he was like turned it into like a sweatshop.
Yep, and he got
And
got
all the
got.
grandmas are in there like
So there
making
you go.
sweaters.
Find your Ben Stiller and get some referrals from him. It's true. Yeah, it was a great movie, and the second one was equally as funny. Although I think the first one was funnier. But so
Yeah.
those are things to absolutely consider. What else are we seeing? We're seeing expense reduction. Helping small businesses reduce their expenses, regardless of what economy we're in. There's always a need for that. One of my favorites, and we've seen quite a bit of success, is water and smoke mitigation, where people had a fire, smoke damage, flooding from natural disasters. I live on the coast,
Mm.
on the East Coast, and hurricane season, is a nightmare. So, helping people get back into their home, remove mold, and water damage and things like that. So these are
Oh, let me tell
non-sexy
you.
businesses.
Oh, I went through that. Okay, let me tell you a real quick story. So my house had a small flood. Okay, from a upstairs sink,
Okay.
and so it came through the ceiling. And anyways, long story short, the water restoration company that came out and they were doing the work, and they started, tearing apart some of the house and doing what they do. Well, I went to go stay at a hotel overnight while they were, doing some stuff and like doing the work. I come home the next day and I walk in my house, and my house is absolutely completely flooded. Like
Oh,
it
wow.
raining, like right from the ceiling. The ceiling had collapsed, all this kind of stuff. It was insane. They they didn't cap the lines when they pulled the sink out. So they left the lines exposed. They didn't cap the lines, and they didn't turn the water off.
Jeez.
They didn't turn the water off at the main. So like I'm they left and I was gone, and the water was just going all
Wow.
night long.
Not a
Like,
good experience.
it went from a small issue to like $150,000 claim,
Wow.
and I was out of my house for 8 months while they had to put it all back together.
And that's the worst part, right? I mean, it's not being in your home. It's not the same, even though, yes, you have shelter and you're staying in a hotel or somewhere else, but getting you back into your home as fast as possible. That's the
Yeah.
goal there. And it's scary. It's scary stuff, but these are businesses that regardless of COVID or the economy, you can't
Yeah.
you can't be raining inside your home. You can't have a flooded basement. You're going to have issues with the foundation eventually. So mold. Now people are getting sick
Mm.
in the home, potentially
Oh
dying from
yeah. I
that.
had
So
black mold when growing up as a kid.
mm,
Same thing. Look, you start talking about floods, I start getting like,
you feel you're
'cause
getting chills.
oh man, I have nightmares about it because I'm not even kidding. As a kid, we had black mold. They had to gut my house. I remember being a kid, and they're literally throwing all our stuff away in this giant, trash bin. I mean, all of my toys and everything as a kid, like everything's getting thrown away. My bed, everything's getting thrown away because it's all contaminated, black mold, right?
Yeah.
Black mold's the worst, y'all. And they gut the house and all that kind of stuff. And anyways, yeah, when you start talking about floods and black mold and everything, I start getting anxiety.
It's tough. Well, you asked me, and then you to turn the tables. You asked me what I would recommend for you, and I personally think you would do well in that business. Not because this is prior to hearing your story, but given your background, being able to network. The who you know show, right? It's who you know.
Yeah.
You're not necessarily getting leads online. You're working with plumbers in your
Mm.
market. These are companies, plumbers basically they come out and say, basement's flooded. They shut the water off. They figure out
Mm.
exactly the pipe that busted, the
Yep.
PVC, the copper. They
Yep.
contact, they contact a restoration company. They'll clean
Referrals.
everything out. It's all referral business. So
Yes.
if you have that
Yes.
network, if you're good, if you have this large network, they call it a
Mm.
mayor of the town. It's really
Mm.
helping the homeowner, not just cleaning up, but just saying, you know what, these are ways to prevent it. So
Mm.
looking at the roof, because usually it happens at the roof, right? There's a shingle missing that no one picked up on, or something wasn't installed correctly. So let's prevent it, and let's check for moisture throughout the entire home. But just because you can't see it doesn't mean that there's not black mold behind the sheetrock. So they're going to do
Mm.
preventative. They're going to check on things. You're going to work with that homeowner, but you can also offer. So you had mentioned having, black mold is obviously you got to throw everything out, but if it's salvageable, you're able to take all the contents of the home and store it at another facility, a climate control facility, cleaning up what you can. There may be some laptops that were damaged, and you may outsource that to a company that specializes to get those photos and files back off the hard drive. But you're really becoming that one-stop shop. Who do you know
Mm.
that can now rebuild my home? Well, you may have a subcontractor. You may do it yourself. So it's really a turnkey, but it starts at the top. How do you get
That's
the call? And that's the networking.
That's a great point, and I love that you said that. That was really good. You connected those dots, and even for me with my personal story too, because I've gone through it and experienced it, like I would know. So that makes sense. Um, Very cool. I like that. I like that you connected those dots. I might want to explore that. No, I'm
And
just kidding. But
I'll throw one thing. And you as a franchise owner can be involved as you want on the cleanup. But most of franchisees are doing the sales and marketing. They're not out there removing
yeah,
the
no.
mold. Some choose to, and that's fine. But you hire a staff to do that while you're focusing on the marketing and bringing in those relationships. Doing a breakfast meeting at a plumbing supply store. You're not out there, and again, if you wanted to, you can, but that's what most people think of. They think the service,
Mm,
dog waste removal, has exploded in franchising. Are you picking it up? You could be, or you could be working with the HOAs in your entire territory that you purchased and trying to get those big commercial contracts. So take always a step back to see, is there demand, and what is my
mm.
role in the business, and you're going to notice that you're not actually providing the service itself.
I love that. Okay, so a lot of people think about this. They start, maybe coming to you after layoffs or downsizing, things like that. How can someone start building a franchise or ownership, like start thinking about that conversation before they need it?
Yeah, it's called my safety net. It's called the safety net, what I call a safety net. And really, the time is now. You never know when the next layoff is going to be. We're
Mm,
seeing more and more. So the safety net is essentially the
mm,
backup plan. Let me look into a franchise that can be run part time while I keep my job, and maybe you put it in there a year plan. In a year, once we generate X in revenue, X in income, that's when I leave my job. You may get to that year, and then it's like, wow, I'm in control. If I want to stay in my job another 6 months, if I want to leave in 9 months, it's completely on you. But you're building that backup plan versus waiting to say you lost your job. Now, what are you left with? A couple months severance and nothing else. You
mm,
may not you may not be hireable. I work with people that are so specific in the marketing that they offer that they don't even know how to post on social media. They've done such a specific thing in a finite way that they walk away saying, I don't know what my skill set is. I love
mm.
people, but the marketing and what I did in the past, it really isn't transferable because it was so specific that, it would only work for that specific job. So it's
Yeah, I
never,
see people
yeah,
like that all the time because
too much. Yeah.
all the time. You mentioned severance. So do you see people take their severance that they got? Maybe they got 6 months severance from a company and take that money and just say, "Oh, I'm gonna go get into a franchise."
Yeah, we've seen that when you lose your job or when you leave your job, whatever the circumstances are, that opens up your retirement where you can use your old 401k to fund the business. So we talked about loans before, but instead of investing in the stock market, just say you got $1 million, invest in the S&P, you can pool. Not you don't have to pull the whole thing, but maybe it's a fraction, a couple 100,000, and using those funds to set up your franchise. It's completely legal. It was set up by a company, Benetrends, back in 1978, and there's a specific way of doing it. So definitely work with a professional company like a Benetrends to help you facilitate that process. But there's a lot of different ways. But yes, the severance is one. Some people, it's easier to get an SBA loan if you're employed and you're the only income in the household. So if you're working, it'll be a little bit easier to get that loan. So yeah, there's a ton of different ways of kind of exploring
Fu-
ownership and funding it.
Yeah, looking at options and funding things.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also built something you call the franchise freedom process. All right, talk to me. What problem does that process solve that most people don't even realize they have?
The process, yeah. So we do a few things. Number one, step one, we have a right fit call. Is franchising the right fit for you? Where are you at this given point in time? We'll figure out together in 20 minutes if a franchise may be a good fit. Not what the franchise is. It could be a perfect fit, but the funding isn't there. So we'll focus on there and maybe talk in 3 to 6 months, get the credit score up, get the liquidity up. But if
Mm,
we figure out if a franchise is definitely a possibility, our second call, so it would be step two in the process, is figuring out what the ideal business looks like. What are your transferable skills, the soft skills we talked about? What do your financials look like? Credit score, Are you looking at a brick and mortar location? Well, you're going to have a lengthier time frame to get open versus a cleaning franchise where you can be up and running in a few months. What does your staff look like? W-2 versus contractor. What is your role in the business? And then step 3 in the process is putting that all together, those characteristics and preferences, to find 3 franchise companies that match and check off all the boxes you're looking for, so that we can introduce you, step 4, in speaking directly with the franchise companies. So it's a very clean process. The secret sauce is the first call. Many people dive into, I like Subway, I like Jersey Mike's. Jersey Mike's was founded here in New Jersey, where I'm located. I love their subs, and it's a great brand. But does that fit the criteria you're looking for? Is there even any availability? Those are the things we're going to look at, because we're going to make sure to show you brands that do have availability in your space.
So I just had a thought as you were saying that.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about, do you think AI could do that process for you? Do you think that, like, the freedom process, franchise freedom process, take them through those 3 steps, like have an AI tool basically kind of interview them, have that initial call with them, take their answers, what they're looking for and their fit, and analyze that information and that data and go back to the different companies that you have relationships with or whatever, and like find a match, find a fit?
I believe it could do some of the lifting. I still don't think it's at a point where, or I'm not sure if it can be. I don't know. We don't know the power of AI at this point, but to do a thorough analysis, and the reason I say that is, it's asking the follow-up questions. We speak with the founders of the brands about what's to happen with the brands. AI obviously it's pulling whatever is public behind the paywalls and behind the logins and things like that. So I think it could do. I've seen people do franchise disclosure document reviews with AI. Is it perfect? No. Does it replace an attorney? No. But some people are okay because there's no cost with it. And I do not recommend it, but some people use it for that. But I believe it can offer you some and open your eyes to some different possibilities out there. Where we add value is.
I was thinking, like, this is where my head goes. I was just thinking from like a marketing standpoint, like if you had some type of assessment that they could do on their own without a person involved, right? And it gave them, like, all of a sudden, hey, here's a few different things that you could consider, right?
Right.
Now we talk to a person, like, so it, like, maybe gives them a few menu options to say, oh, wow, here's some things to think about. Here's why these might be a good fit. Here's what your answers were. And here's why this could be a good fit for you. Kind of just get them to, like, do a little quick self-assessment. The AI kind of makes some quick matches, maybe not like super specific or dialed in yet, to lead into a real conversation with a real, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's my marketing brain.
That could definitely be. Yeah. It's just, giving you an idea, maybe not the brands, but what specifically is out there. Like, you may, based off your assessment and your comfort level and your risk, your risk levels, maybe something that is home-based service. And these are some possibilities of setups and things like that. Absolutely. A lot of, when we have those conversations, so we'll say hypothetically, someone did the assessment and they'll come back and say, well, I definitely want food, because that's maybe the only thing they've heard of. We'll dive a little bit deeper, so we'll ask a follow-up question, why do you like food? Yes, we all have to eat, but what is it about a food franchise? And someone said to me, well, everyone's got to eat. So, and I said, well, what I interpret from there is that not necessarily that you're going to have the high margins that you were looking for, but you're looking for, the consistent, the demand. That was the word I was looking for. You're looking for something with high demand. Absolutely. Okay. Let's look at other brands that have high demand, that are recession resistant, yada, yada, yada. So absolutely. Yeah. AI definitely could help with the process. What I will say is that where we're seeing AI in franchise companies has been just in the last 12 months. And we're having our meeting next month, so we'll have more of an update, is that they're investing millions of dollars back into AI, not only to help their technicians, but for marketing. There's a one gentleman that runs a business, and he goes, their call center, they have live people in the call center, but their AI can handle 250 calls at the exact same time. and really they were able to not downsize their staff, but not ever having to hire an additional staff member, because you have some live agents and then you have the AI handling the rest. And that's 250 calls at the same time. It's downloading the audio from our podcast today. It's throwing it in. It's using that as a reference point to create FAQs and answer questions for franchisees and things like that. So it's absolutely amazing. So I think the companies that are embracing AI, we're seeing it in these crazy CRM systems, systems that I started using myself, and just being a lot more efficient. I think you're going to need that. We're all going to have to level up and use AI in some form.
When you said level up, you mean like go level, or what is it? Go high level?
That's who I use. Yeah, go high level. Yeah, go high level. Yeah. That wasn't a pitch for them.
Yeah, when you said go these,
high level, yeah.
Really good CRMs, I was like, I know which one you're talking about.
Well, that's mine, right? I mean, the franchisors usually have a proprietary system, and who knows, maybe they're using Go or some form, because it is white labeled. So it's a private label, white labeled. So AI, the companies are embracing it. It's making the franchise owners much more efficient as well. So the call center, it's keeping the costs in line. You're not seeing the increases. In some cases, we have a brand where they were able to reduce the staff from 3 employees down to 2 or 1, because there's no longer a front desk receptionist needed, because the AI is handling all the calendar, the follow-up, answering the questions. You're actually greeted by a big screen. It's helping the franchisee become more profitable, but it's also helping the franchisee be more competitive with their pricing, because the franchisor reinvested back into the brand, keeping their costs in line so they can stay competitive in their markets.
I heard somebody recently talking about AI, and a lot of people are worried about it taking jobs, and we are seeing that it's a lot of jobs going away from that, right? But his perspective was a little bit different, because he's a business owner, and he says every time he brings on new tools and new technology and new AI, he's got to then hire experts in those tools to kind of run and manage and all that. And so he keeps scaling and leveling up, but every time he scales and levels up, he has to hire more people. And so he's saying that his prediction is that a lot of people are going to leave these big major corporations. They're going to leave corporate America and it's going to create more small business, right? So the big companies are going to lose people because they're going to fully automate, right? That they're going to do their best to fully automate. And those people are going to leave, and the small businesses are going to pick those people up and employ those people to grow the small business. And AI is going to help create tons more small business. So
I agree.
In a way, his prediction was kind of cool. It was almost like you're going to see people leaving corporate, and more small businesses are going to get created, and they're going to be working for more small business, which I'm all for that. I think it was a pretty cool prediction. What are your thoughts on that? What do you think?
I'm in agreement 100%. I don't think it's, when they say it's killing jobs, that's part of it. Yeah, absolutely. You'd be a fool not to believe it's not killing jobs. Of course,
it is.
Jobs, but it's killing jobs that are not. They're just not here to. They're not going to be around anymore. That doesn't mean there's not jobs being created. So there's this shift of, just because I went to school for computer programming, well, will there still be the same demand for computer programmers? Assuming it gets cut in half, that's fine. We're always looking for ways to better yourself. So don't just study one thing and then just hope that industry is around. You're always learning. My son is looking at colleges as we speak. He's looking at business as well as AI and technology. Well, they really can't even teach on AI, because by the time they put a course together, it's already changed 10,000 times. So that's, some of that stuff you're going to learn on your own.
It's so true. I didn't even think about that. That's just insane what you just said.
And these are high tech companies. Yeah.
You can't create a course or a, education, a class on AI. It's good. I mean, I guess you could. It just have to be. It'll
be obsolete by the time it's approved. It's going to be completely different. So adapt. I think the moral of the story is, there's plenty of
adapt.
ways people make money. It's the people that are flexible, that go with the flow and are always
I need an
learning.
AI implementer, like someone who's that's their sole job is to. Oh, I lost my camera again. See this? I need a guy that can help me with that.
You need
No,
a
just
camera
kidding.
guy. You need an AI camera
I need a
guy.
camera guy. No, so, but like someone who can test, and that's their
Yeah.
whole job is just to test and implement, right? Because a lot of these tools, they are very easy. A lot of them, but they require some time and testing and,
Yes.
and tweaking and you know what I'm saying? And connect. Like, I need someone to just, that's their only job. Just right. So those that are listening to this right now, think about that. All these companies need somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
All these small companies, small businesses, they need, and I don't know what the name of that role is, but I the way I say is AI implementer.
Yeah,
Like I need some,
yeah.
you know what I mean?
There you
That's
go.
your job.
You got a job. AI. Remember, not everyone is tech savvy. You may have someone that is, maybe the business doesn't even have a website. You know, they're referral
Right.
based, and that's never been
And
easy.
AI can create a website like this,
in
but
minutes.
you need someone who knows how to use that tool, right?
100%.
Like instead of it used to have to hire someone to do the coding and the design and all the blah 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 blah. They got AI now that can create a website in 2 seconds, but you need someone that knows how to use it. So an AI implementer who can just.
Here we go. I got one for you. You know, there's fractional CFOs, fractional CTOs, and you got your technology officer and someone that can handle the tech. You know, maybe it's an hour a day, oversight, testing. You know, you do all the heavy lifting, because AI also could backfire. It's backfired for me, where you know, something wasn't checked off and it's shooting off phone calls and texts and stuff like that, and
emails that are like
not adjust. Yeah, I've had people cut and paste messaging, not alter it, and I got the wrong message. I've seen a lot. So you definitely need that.
It can create headaches. Yeah.
Yes, it could definitely. So there you go, fractional CTO. That's something. May have to trademark that, but you know, maybe it probably already exists. But yeah, I mean, just someone to, maybe you were in computer programming and now you're helping business owners implement the AI. So there you go. I mean, it's the programming maybe moves away, but now you have this new role, new position. So it's a fast paced world, and especially in technology, you just have to expect. Got to have the backup plan. Got to have the financials in order, but also like, how do I better myself? What other skills can I learn and try? You know, is it owning a business and then having the AI handled for me, like a lot of the franchises? All right, well, that's a pain point that kind of goes away, and they deal with the AI and the bettering of AI, and you can just take advantage of it. So there's different ways, you know, depending on that next path. It may be another job, it may be a franchise, it may be a startup. There, you got options, and you owe it to yourself to really explore and compare those options.
So I want to shift real quick to mistakes. What are some like first time franchise owner mistakes? You know, the most money or stress that nobody warns them about. What mistakes that cost them the most money and stress that nobody talks to them about?
The silliest mistake that I've seen, and it's kind of crazy, because you know, some people, they'll find click on an ad and buy the franchise directly. That they get no coaching, no advice. Is that they buy a franchise and they don't follow the system. You know, I'm not going to use their marketing because I have contacts in this space, and that's part of what you're getting in the franchise. And there's a cost to it, but there's a proven business model, there's a proven marketing system in place for you to utilize. So not following the system is one. Number two is suffocating your business financially, in that, you know, I get everyone wants to pay themselves right away, and I get it. I didn't pay myself for at least the first, I think, 3 or 4 months when I launched my first business. Is, if you're going to aggressively pay yourself, where's that money coming from? And if you're taking out of marketing to do so, that's going to hurt the business in the long run. So having that financial buffer, not overextending yourself, having that 3 to 6 months living expense and that buffer set aside in the event the business takes a little bit longer to get up and running. We've seen that. A third, which I just had a conversation, unfortunately, the other day, is not asking for help. I had a franchisee that was struggling, and he was only a couple months into business, and he's like, I get it. I've never owned the business. It's just a shift. And I go, well, did you contact your coach? Did you contact the franchisor? Not yet. And I go, well, that's why you invested in a franchise. If you need help and you know that, you're assigned a coach. Maybe it's traveling with you, it's jumping on a phone. In one case, it was reviewing the financials to find out he had a very, very successful business, but he had, for whatever reason, hired an additional 4 employees that were not recommended at that point in growth at that level. So he had the top line revenue, but he was actually losing money because he had too many people on staff where there was not a need, too much overhead. So
wow, that's pretty cool. So wait, you see, you guys even do like different levels of like, where are you at, and like, hey, here's what we recommend at this level, here's what we recommend at this level. There's a guy I'm thinking of, Brandon Dawson. Are you familiar with that guy, Brandon Dawson?
The name sounds familiar.
Yeah, he works with Grant Cardone and the 10X, everything 10X that they do. Anyway, and he does that. They do business coaching where it's like they help you. And I remember him talking about at different levels, like who put it this way? New level, new devil.
Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
New level, new devil, right? So like, depending on where you're at, you need to be doing different things. And so anyway, it's interesting that you said that too. So you guys help coach them with that as well.
Well, I advise them to go to their coach because no one knows the brand better than the franchise. So if you look at it this way, you get the coach. I'll remind them to ask for help because sometimes they get so overwhelmed that they feel bad asking. They forget to ask. Surprisingly, it happens very often. So I'll tell them to go back. What the franchisor has kind of figured out, and these aren't concrete, but just based off of the 50 franchise, 100 franchises in the system, they'll come back and say, typically, you own a painting business. Your average painter can generate, I'm making these numbers up, $500,000 in revenue. If you're at 200,000, you're not going to have 3 painters. You may start off with 1, but as you creep up to 300,000-400,000, you hire that second painter. 1 painter per truck, $500,000 each. You can get three painters, 3 trucks in a territory. They kind of, figure it out and just saying, this is the up to kind of the opportunity, and it can absolutely exceed those numbers. But that way you have a base to say, okay, we're only doing 100,000 in business. I don't even have to think about another painter at this point in time. As they get to 300, I'll start interviewing for that other painter. So they'll kind of break it down and say, this is what to expect. And then, at what point do you want to extend your franchise, or I shouldn't say expand your franchise by buying another location, another territory. They're going to kind of give you this breakdown, and that's based off of all the historical data from all the franchisees. So they'll know what an employee can roughly make and or produce. How much a truck could produce, how many trucks you need in that specific territory, what a physical location could produce, and when to look at that next territory or that next location, because ultimately it could take up to a year to open up that other location. So you don't say, okay, yeah, I want to open up that location. What you want to start that almost immediately after opening your first location. You start looking for that second, so that you have that location in mind and start building it, so that it's going to take you 12 months to get up and running. And they'll coach you through that based off of what the goal is, how many franchise locations or territories you purchase. So they have all that data. It's just really digging in with them and reviewing it, and then checking in and saying, well, I got 1 painter and he's only doing 250. Well, is it the drive time? Is it inefficiencies? Does he not have the right equipment? Is the truck breaking down every mile? So figuring out where those inefficiencies are, so that you can make sure to hit all those milestones and all those kind of numbers that they're looking for.
So you wrote the Franchise Freedom book.
Yep.
Right. What's the biggest takeaway you want readers to walk away with when they read that book?
The biggest takeaway is that I am here to empower you, to help you understand that it's not a one size fits all, that you have options out there. And that book really empowers you to look at the next position, the franchise, the startup, to really make a full evaluation a bit, instead of asking your uncle or cousin at dinner that may never have owned the business for their advice. And we hear this all the time.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
They don't mean, they're not bad. It's not the best advice, but they don't mean anything harmful by it. They're there just to really protect you, I guess, is the way it was explained to me. But really, it's to empower yourself and control what you can control. You can control your attitude. You can't control the
Mm,
stock market or the economy, but you can control what happens in the next layoff. So it talks about having the business and keeping it and keeping the job and what that looks like. We talk about the who, not how. Building a team, your financial advisor, your CPA, your attorney, hopefully your franchise consultant, but hiring that team and putting that team together to look out for your best interests. Look at the legal aspect, look at the accounting aspect, look at all the overall investment. But the biggest takeaway is that you do have options. You don't have to be miserable and stuck at your job. And there's a lot more than financial freedom, time freedom. Since COVID, I've been hearing more and more often, I just want to spend more time with my family. There are definitely options out there, and you don't have to spend $1 million on a fast food chain.
mm. Yo, there you go. You don't need $1 million, right?
You don't need anywhere near $1 million, especially if you're getting a loan. So you got
Yeah.
options, and you owe it to yourself to really sit down and have a conversation with someone like myself to learn more about the process.
Okay, so I got an interesting one here for you. All right. I want you to finish this sentence. Okay. Finish the sentence. Franchise ownership isn't about freedom, it's about.
It is about control. It is about control of your destiny. It is about control of not missing your son or daughter's soccer games. It's controlling, who you do business with, when you do business, and then what that next chapter is, and that's maybe leaving a legacy to your family.
Okay. All right.
You got me with the freedom. Freedom is my go-to word. I had to pause there for a second, but control.
I had to switch it
control.
up a little bit.
I've been working on the control piece. The control. You can't control everything. You can only control so much, and you can control a lot of things. And having a job, you don't control much aside from showing up on time. So, having that backup, that's the control in the event you get laid off.
All right. So, in closing, if someone right now, if they were listening and they feel stuck, right, and they know they're meant for more, what's the first honest question they need to ask themselves tonight?
What does my ideal life and day look like? That's as simple as it gets. You don't need to know what the hot brands are. What does my day look like? What's the venue? Am I from working from home? Am I going to a physical location? Those are things to really consider. What does life, what does that vehicle, that business or job have to look like in order for me to never miss a soccer game? Well, if you're showing up to the office in New York City, you're guaranteed to miss everything because of the commute and the traffic. And I've been through there. So what does the ideal life look like? And what is your why? Because without the why, the reason for doing it, if you start a business and you come on rough times, and we all do, it's cyclical. You need that strong why, that reason for doing it to get you past those downtimes. So figure out why you want to do this and really what your ideal day looks like. Phenomenal starting point. Most people can't answer that. Give that some thought. Put the internet aside. The research, the top list, the industries. That's all great, but start there, and then you start building from there.
I love that. Not a lot of people take control of their life like that. They don't really look at it from that angle, that vantage point. They're just kind of like letting life happen to them. I mean, I think it's the way the system's built. You graduate high school. I mean, you were told to go to school. You go to high school, and they're like, you got to go to college. So you go to college, and then you don't know what the heck you're doing after that. You don't even know what you're doing there. And then you fall into a role. You take, probably the first job you can get. You fall into a role, and then next thing you know, you're doing something that you hate. And then you do that for the rest of your life because it's all you know.
That's all. That's it. You get kind of stuck. You get the golden handcuffs. You get the little bit increase in salary. It happened to someone I'm working with right now. He's like, I can't give up a $250,000 income. I said, sure you can. If this is not sustainable, sure you can. It could be a job that pays half in your home market, allowing you to work from home and running a business. Is it a step back in income? Sure. But you're telling me you're miserable, so you're just going to remain miserable if you stay in the same situation. So
I had to take a step back to move forward, right? When I left the automotive industry and got into financial services, I had to step back. I knew I was going to do that too, and don't expect, this is something that I tell people all the time. The first time you do anything, don't expect to be amazing at it.
No.
So you're going to
No.
probably get into this
Yep.
franchise thing, and right off the bat, you're probably going to suck at what, you know what I mean? You're not going to be great at it, but like lower your expectation a little bit. Cause when are you ever absolutely just great at something that you're doing for the first time?
It takes time. And also,
Yeah.
people get beat up with, I took a major pay cut from Wall Street to owning a franchise. But guess what? The wealth of the business was growing. The tax benefits I was getting, that's not stuff that's really measurable. It's kind of going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
The growth of the business, the enterprise value, the 3, 4, 5x you're getting on your seller discretionary earnings. There's so much going on there that you can leverage and growth. Some people are just looking at what's physically in their bank account. So yeah, you will suck at certain things. You're going to mess up, and you're going to learn from there. And that's why the systems are in place and to get better. But you'll one day look back and laugh at those times. I remember my first sales appointment; it sucked. Franchisor was with me, and I screwed up, and I owned it, and we ended up closing that deal. We hardly made any money on that deal, but it was that fire. It gave me that confidence to go on the next sales call. So I still remember the deal. Again, barely any profit, but we made a few bucks. It was kind of the wind kind of beneath us, and it helped us get our second and third deal and so forth. So yeah, give it a shot. The franchisors training for the most part are top notch, and you'll learn that industry relatively quickly.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Giuseppe, I really appreciate you bringing clarity instead of hype. Tell me where the audience can connect with you. What's the best way for them to plug in with everything you got going on?
Yeah, you got it. Right. The main website, GG, my initials, thefranchiseguide.com. You go there, you got a few options. You can book a call with me, top right. And all my, by the way, services are free to you. We're paid just like a real estate agent. So there's no cost. So we could definitely dive in and figure out if a franchise is a fit. If you're not ready, go to the next tab. You can download the book, my 30-minute roadmap, or jump on the podcast, Franchise Freedom tab right next to it. We have about 270 episodes about any topic, franchise or business related. Just type in a search term like exit strategy planning, boom, and you'll get a David C. Barnett on there talking about how to sell your business. So the resources are there. I say empower you, the Who You Know show, and I would love to help you figure out if a franchise is or is not a good fit. And if it's not, we definitely have people that we can assist, and maybe it's the startup, or maybe it is right, but the money isn't there, and maybe it's a credit repair or funding company. So we definitely have the resources to assist in any way possible.
Yeah, definitely, guys. There's a lot to this. I'm just learning, oh my gosh, just from this conversation, so many takeaways. So don't go at it alone, right? Don't try to tackle this one on your own. Okay. You need to talk with an expert. Giuseppe can help you out. And for anyone listening right now, remember this: jobs can be taken. Okay. Your skills and your ownership, those you take with you, those are built, and you get to keep that. Okay. So guys, that's the show. We'll catch you next time on Who You Know. Bye.